The Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure, follows a retired soldier turned reporter who is given a coveted interview with a death row inmate. What he learns thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He'll have to use his military training to survive being hunted for possessing the information that could topple the city's most powerful ruling class. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at Denali's.com.
Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
25 seconds to curtain, folks.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics, myopic proofreader for Critical Blast Publishing, and yes, I will help you with your crowdfunder data with Critical Blast Consulting, putting my 35 years of IT experience to your benefit. Tonight, it's a party. This is one of my fun shows. I mean, I love all the shows I do because I'm always interested in what people have to say, but this is the culmination of months of work to get this book out there into all of your hands. And I'm so happy that so many of you have showed up here, all of you who have contributed to the success of this book. Let's do a spiral clockwise here. Start with Ross and introduce yourselves and who you are and what you've done.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hi guys. My name's Ross. Who I am and what I've done. Well, I just recently
give us the whole David Copperfield treatment, you know?
Yeah. Well, I just had my first book published this year, actually. Full Moon Highway. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
That came out through Raventail, but that's my first thing. So I've really been working on that, and getting in this book is actually my second thing ever published. So I've had two things published this year. I had a daughter born this year. She just turned 5 months, and I had a pretty good promotion with my day job. So like I just had a lot of stuff going on this year, a lot of good things, thankfully.
This has been your year.
Yeah. So this is just kind of like, it's all, I'm riding the wave right now. It's kind of, I'm still getting used to it. Like all this new stuff happens. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with me right now though.
All right. Troy, I know all about you, but nobody else does. So let's work on that.
Well, my name's Troy Reiser. I have a pretty long publishing history actually, and virtually all of it, well, nearly all of it in short story format. I'm a co-author of a novel with RJ, in fact, The Sideways Door, which last I looked on Amazon was like the copies are outrageously priced. I don't know why.
It's still there.
Yeah, but it's still on Amazon. I'm trying to think of. Well, I've been published recently. Over the last 2 years, my late wife encouraged me to start writing again, because I was always bouncing off story ideas on her, and she's like, "Just write it, please." And so I wrote them, and you know, every story that I've submitted in the last 2 years has been accepted. And so I'm kind of on a roll, and I'm grooving on it. I got published in Kursova magazine, which I strongly recommend as a market. It's just Alex is marvelous to work with, and I've been featured in RJ's Devil You Know series, and I'm really proud of that. I got yet another story out that I submitted to Kursova, and fingers crossed on that one. But for this, I was really struck by the theme, the Monsters Next Door theme, because I'd been contemplating a story about the literary bride of Frankenstein, something Mary Shelley inspired. And I didn't want to carry the cinematic weight with me, so I kept it strictly to the literary version, which I think was a good choice on my part. The word Frankenstein does not show up in the story. Because it would be the equivalent of a cultural bomb that suddenly there's all these associations with it. But I wanted to make it clear who I was talking about. And I also just wanted to point out that I'd read Frankenstein as a child, and I read it again because I was forced to in high school. And then I read it again last year, and I was so struck by it, just how good that novel truly is. And this is when the novels were just coming into their own as an art form. She was a pioneer. And one of the discoveries I made as an adult reading Frankenstein was that Victor Frankenstein is the villain. And I was aghast at that because I had overlooked that. I had overlooked it completely. But if you read between the lines, there he is, But I do go on, and I want everyone else to get a chance to introduce themselves. But I'm really excited. This story is one of the best things I've ever done, and I'm so glad that it found a home.
Marty, we'll jump down to you. I was trying to find something in the book here, trying to find where Ross's story is. And his name's not showing up, and I know he's here because I paid him.
Well, you can wait and find him.
I will.
So
go ahead.
I'm writing also. It's a dream probably for most of us. Live your life doing what you love to do, and writing I love to do. And I just had a conversation with Troy a little bit ago. I've known Troy for a few years, and you too. But the discussion we had was around, like, why do you write, and how do you know when you're successful, and what makes you happy? And for me, my measure of success is extremely simple. It's have a whole ton of people read my stuff. The money's nice if you get paid. It's always nice to get paid for what you do.
I think so.
But the real thing that I just want people to read my stuff. It's why, probably like you guys, you carry around copies of your book, and you're like, hey, I wrote this book. Here, have a free copy. Just read it. And you just want people to read it. And those same people that, I'll support you, I'll buy your book, but they never read it. I'd rather them not buy it and read it. So, you want to get it into libraries. You want to get your work out there. I haven't written shorts. I haven't written short stories in years. I've been working on novels. And I was talking to Troy actually about this, your anthology. And Troy gave me a hint of what he was thinking about. And I was like, hey, Troy, how about this idea? And he goes, why don't you write it? And I go, okay. So I wrote up my idea and submitted it. And I was very, very happy to be accepted by the anthology. So I'm excited to be here with all other authors. I'd be happy to sit here and talk hours with you guys about your writing and about your trade and how you feel about writing as a whole. So I'll let the next person go.
That would be Joel. We're going. No, wait a second. We got. Okay, we're just going to keep going straight across then. Mia, please.
Hi, my name is Mia Dahlia. My story in this anthology is titled Midnight Deli, and it's my love letter to all the classic Universal monsters, but I tried to put a new spin on it. and hopefully it worked. I had a lot of fun writing it. It was a little different for me. What else? I've been writing for a couple of years now. I started during a lockdown and I just didn't stop, and now I can't stop. My debut novel, Estate Sale, came out this April. So got pretty good reviews. I'm waiting for the sales to catch up to reviews, but I'm very proud of it. I had a few novelettes put out. I'm currently with Psychotoxin Press. I'm doing a few novellas. I had one come out 2 weeks ago titled Tell Me a Story, because I just really wanted to have it on the cover, say, Mia Dahlia, tell me a story. I honestly just want people to say that to me so I can keep telling these stories and feel like I'm not imposing. And I have another one coming out with them soon, and I'm very excited for that one because it's going to come with its own soundtrack. It's like a rock and roll stories, and it's going to hopefully rock and roll. And there's a professional composer doing it, because the only thing I play is ukulele, and I did not think it was going to fly. And yeah, I've had a bunch of shorts published in a variety of places. And if anybody likes Midnight Deli and want to look me up, I'm trying to be all over the internet. Social media is exhausting, but I have Amazon page and author page and all that. So yeah, and if you want to connect on Facebook, I think I've just mastered that. So it's very nice to meet everybody. I'm going to shut up now. Thank you.
And by the way, folks, if you have not got your author name on the Amazon page for this, all you have to do is just tell them, this is my book, add it to my page. And when they say prove it, say, look at the back cover, because the back cover is printed there. The software that was used to create the book through the distributor only allowed for 2 names to be added as contributors. I'm like, I'm not about to pick favorites and let everybody else fight it out, but you can all get added that way. Gene, your turn.
Hi, I'm Gene Turchin. Obviously, I think I'm the oldest guy here, right? Maybe way past 70. Been writing for quite a few years. Retired probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and my wife said, "Go do that thing that you've been wanting to do." So I started writing in earnest, and with no kids at home and only the house nagging at me, I was able to do somewhat successfully. So I've a couple of dozen short stories and flash fiction out there. I've finished one novel, and it's doing its round of rejections right now. Working on a second one, and to address a little bit of what Troy said, I got an idea to do one on Dracula. So I went and reread that 19th century novel, and that gave me a lot of insights into what Stoker actually said in the book, and how much more of vampire legend is basically came from film. There wasn't that much that Stoker created. So with vampires, you can kind of make up your own stuff as you go along, other than a few basic rules. So I'm working on that, which cuts into, I think I'm primarily a short story writer, but finishing one novel and being pretty close to the second one, I viewed that as a fairly good accomplishment. I like flash fiction. Boom, 1,000 words, beginning, middle, and end. And I was really pleased to be accepted with this one, because what's the stuff I write is just, I don't know if you'd call it horror. It's kind of paranormal, creepy, weird is what way I classify it. Although I've done some literary things and actually some technical stuff. I did work in electronics and IT for a lot of years. I have a background, fairly good science background. And I'm in West Virginia, which I've only found one other quote horror writer in the entire state of West Virginia. So we're probably minimal. And by the way, the story that's in this one is a riff on, we have a creature called the Mothman. Anybody ever heard of him? Okay.
Oh yeah, love the Mothman, big fan.
Okay. So my story is a riff on the Mothman legend with a twist. So that's about all I have to say.
And I'll take this opportunity before jumping in to wish Diana happy birthday. To show off.
Happy birthday.
Gene's story here.
My birthday?
Because here's something that we did in this book that is unique. Everybody gets a cover. So you're all going to be having your own cover. And this is Gene's story, Shadow Dusk. And if you look there in the shadows, there is the Mothman hiding in the bushes between the two houses, just as described in his opening paragraphs there. So let me bring myself back down here. And I'll do this a little bit more later as we get through the rounds of introduction. So you'll all get to see what your cover looks like if you don't have book in hand already, like Diana does. So Diana, your turn. Please introduce yourself. And again, how many years now?
Oh yeah. Okay. Hi, yo. I am Diana Olney, also known by some as the Mistress of Terror. Ooh, spooky. I'm definitely what you would call a lifelong storyteller. But I've been writing professionally for about 3 years now, during which time I have poured heart, soul, and probably buckets of blood into the written word. And that's where I live. I live in the world of fiction. I think I'm better sometimes at fiction than reality. But I wouldn't have it any other way. And there is so much magic and joy that I have discovered over the past few years. Everything changes when you start writing full force, and it opens doors, it opens windows, and before you know it, you've created entire worlds, and there's absolutely nothing like it. I'm sure a lot of you guys agree with me. And it's also very addicting. I have a ton of new stuff coming out kind of all at once because I've spent the past year just toiling away, and it's sort of racked up into back-to-back releases. So obviously I am here, proud, honored to be in the Monsters Next Door. I'm also have a story featured in Crystal Lake Publishing, or I'm sorry, they're now Crystal Lake Entertainment because they're expanding. I had one come out right before this, so like literally back to back in their Shallow Waters series, which is flash fiction. So little bite-sized terrors, lots of fun. And then next month, you'll see more from me. If you want to go on a really dark downward spiral with me, I have another coming out in a magazine called Dark Horses Magazine. And then after that, another one with Crystal Lake, and probably oodles more as I sit here and bury myself in pages upon pages of manuscripts. I've also got novelettes and novellas in the works, but like a lot of you guys here, I'm hearing I am primarily a short story writer. Inspiration comes very quickly and sometimes violently, and so different fictions and worlds and creatures really want to take the spotlight, and it's a bit harder for me to do those longer works, though my short stories are really not that short. You can ask RJ. I have to, right? Yeah, the first draft that I turned in for this was about 10,000 words, and then I got it cut down to 8,700. So it's a meaty monster. Genre-wise, I do a lot of genre bending and blending. I'm less about the gore and the shock and awe. And I'm more of a fan of poetic lyricism, shadows, and wordplay. What did I say? I just updated my bio. I like nightmares and dreams, and I like to sort of blur the line and live in that nowhere place where anything can happen. That's probably enough babbling from me, but if any of that sounds interesting to anybody, I have a website. It's pretty easy to remember, dianaolney.com. And I've got a newsletter, and it's a pain to get people to join a newsletter. So if you're feeling like you really want to support the arts and the words, hop on the website, join the newsletter. I give you gold stars. Yay!
Diana also came to our attention because she was featured in one of the Devil You Know books that we did, the anthologies. And I believe it was on one of those block parties where I opened my mouth and said, hey, why don't we do something called The Monsters Next Door? And everyone's like, I'm in on that. I'm like, I'm keeping my mouth shut on this one. I've got too many irons in the fire to start up a new anthology right off the cuff here. Evan, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, hi, everyone. My name is Evan Boffman. I'm an author and playwright who lives in Southern California. I've been published in a number of different anthologies. I really like, writing short form, as it sounds like many of you do. A lot of my success over the last few years has been writing scary stories for younger horror fans. I'm a middle school teacher, and so I wanted to write books that would get my students interested in the genre. And so it's been fun to see my students' reactions to the scary stuff that I write. However, the story that I wrote for this anthology is not written for middle school audience. It's definitely more adult oriented. It's called Man on Porch, and it's about someone who has to deal with various entities that end up on their porch late at night, and they're communicating through their video doorbell camera. So, so that's me, and glad to be here. Congratulations.
I thought it was a hilarious story too, by the way.
Thank you.
Loved reading it. All of you, the 20 of you that made it into this book were selected out of a field of over 175 to about 180 entries for this anthology. And then that got cut down to, hey, these are the really good stories. Let's look at these. And there were about 60 of those. We could have really done all three books right off the bat. But so you guys rose to the top of the 60 that passed the second read level. So you should definitely feel proud of yourselves. Jean, tell us about yourself, please.
Yeah, my name's Jean Genelette. I've been vaguely writing my entire life, but I only kind of focused this year. I have next month I have a story coming out in Paranormal Magazine, and then in October I have a story coming out in the Crybaby Bridge collection of utter speculation. And this story that I wrote, The Welcome Wagon of Widgeon Woods, was inspired by my next door neighbors. That's all I want to say about that. It was as soon as I saw as soon as I saw the monsters next door, I was like, oh, those people. So,
are they watching right now?
No, they are not. They're gone. They moved. They're gone.
Based on the content of her story, I'm scared.
So that's it for me right now.
All right, Joel, you had a different kind of story, so tell us about yourself and what your influences are and such. You're muted, Joel. Joel, your mic is muted.
Oh.
Here we go.
There we go.
I do the same thing when I'm in Zoom calls with teachers all the time. I shut the mic off.
I do the reverse. I think I'm muted, but I'm not. That's even worse.
I'm a retired English teacher, a high school English teacher. Taught for 30 years, and am now actually teaching. I guess I'm semi-retired because I'm teaching community college, and had a chance this year for the first time to teach something other than composition, research writing. I got a chance to teach creative writing. So I had a chance to share some of my stories with the students, and that was a really enjoyable experience. I took my name off the story so they could be critiqued in a more honest way. I got good feedback from them. It was really, really interesting. I've had a collection of short stories come out actually a couple of years ago. That's called Odd Birds, and I call it a collection of stories of twisted tales and tales with twists, I guess. So, and I guess it's kind of a mixed bag of stories, really, because I would say some are, maybe aimed at middle school level, maybe even like an R.L. Stine type of a feel to them. There's some that are more mature in nature. I think probably my biggest influences, probably Edgar Allan Poe, Ray Bradbury. And I agree with some of the other authors, I think, here as well. I think I'm pretty much a short story writer, and I've made attempts on novels, and I can't really sustain it. I don't think for that long. It's more, I just kind of pour out your passion of that single idea. And it kind of frightens me, actually. I mean, I have a huge respect for novelists. I mean, to me, it's a pretty scary thing to wade out there into several chapters. And I know some people work without an outline. Even I couldn't. And there's no way I could do that. But I have another short story that should be coming out, I believe, in another anthology fairly soon. So I spend most of my. For me, it's a hobby I really enjoy. I don't know if I could ever make the jump to a professional level. I do it during my summer vacation at this point, and boy, if something happens, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. The fact I'm getting some stories into short story anthologies, that's enough for me. I think somebody mentioned the same too. The fact that I have somebody reading those stories is really, really exciting for me. So
Joel's story is the only one that's set in a historical period, as in not modern day, and this is the cover for Captain's Last Ride. If you haven't seen that, Joel, there is your cover.
I have not. I love the artwork. Yeah.
So yeah, let me address the artwork real quickly here. This is everything from my system's going very slowly tonight because I guess of a lot of people being on here. The cover, the whole wraparound cover artwork effect, all the interior artwork. This was done by George Peter Gatsis, who's a good friend of mine, graphic artist. He's got, we're publishing his other graphic novel, Joe King versus Job Ads, and yes, he knows what sells a comic book, so it's right there front and center on the comic. And he's been hanging around in the chat, but been kind of quiet. So I wanted to just show off these things, all these tabs here. This is what I should have done before the show, and didn't. So now I'm going to have to rip them all off. Oh, they stick real well. Let's not tear the book. And I'm just going to start at I'm going to give myself the full screen for just 20 stories here, and go through and show everybody the covers that they're getting. This is the cover for the leadoff story. This is Mrs. McCarthy by Heather Doherty, and this is a vampire story like none I'd ever read before. It's as funny as Bunnicula, and it's as scary as I have to leave these stickers on here until the glue dries, I think. Mia Dahlia, Midnight Deli. There is the cover for your story. Terror is open all night, and George was really shooting for an EC Comics kind of feel for all of these things, and making sure we had a nice call out things. So
I love it.
I'm glad. I hope you all love your covers, because some of you have seen them, some of you not. Paul Burrell, who's not with us tonight, this is his noir detective, the Nick Victory Chronicles, subtitled Part 1, Nick's New Neighbor. So that Nick's New Neighbor right there. So again, The Bride, the movie one this time around, and I separated the stories so they were far apart. This is one of the things I did. Okay, is I categorized all of you into what kind of monster you had, and then I sorted. I was like, okay, all these vampires, never put any of them next to each other. So that had if you're wondering how we come up with the order of the stories, that had a part to do with it. This is Ellen Hunter's Stanley's Last Job. He's breaking into the house, and death stalks in there because bad things happen. Sirius, also not with us. Howling Devil in the Sticks. This is taking place out in the deep country, and it's a card game with the next door neighbor that has some horrific impact. Gene, this is one I showed you earlier. This is Gene's Shadows at Dusk, and Doom followed. There's the creature hiding in the woods there again between the houses. Evan Boffman, Man on Porch. There's the lady of the house communicating with the video monitor of the Ring doorbell. Ding dong, terror calling. So that is your comic book page. Sherry White, not with us, but she did a spoof on the Twilight Zone story. Here's called The Werewolves Are Due on Maple Street. Gripping terror as you've never experienced. Fulvio Gatti can't make it because it's like 2 a.m. where he's at, but this is his story, A Day Too Bright. Vampire, all in the family vampire kind of situation here. Diana Olney's The Dead Girl Next Door. Isn't she a cutie?
So beautiful.
Yeah, a beautiful tale of love and death, or undeath, as the case may be.
Love after death.
Yes. Is there love after death? Ray Zacek did In the Pines. We got a nice little metaphorical look at the characters involved here. This one had a nice little twist to it. It was I did not see that monster coming, or who the monster was. Jennifer Lee Rossman, welcome, Matt. 5 stars. This one is hilarious. It's got a unique presentation. It's told completely in internet reviews of things that the person has bought in sequence. So your feedback is vital. It was a unique story. Y'all have unique stories. Marty, The Monster Next Door, playing off the title. Here is basically one of your critical scenes of the story here. What lurks across a midnight street? And she's looking out at the house across the street. I'm not going to tell you why. You'll have to read the book to find out. Jean Gentilette, The Welcome Wagon of Widgeon Woods. What's it say there? Spine-tingling chills, hot off the grill. And what's on the grill? I don't know, but it's terrifying, apparently. So you'll have to read that. Robert Allen Lupton did Good Neighborhood. The Johnson girls were different. And again, unique little twist on what the Johnson girls were, but as well as who the monsters were. Alex James Dunn's The Things We Do for Love. Nice little Cthulhu reference in this one. So it's meet the new neighbor. We had a lot of fun doing this because I was doing a lot of art direction with George and working these out with him. Troy, Comes a Pale Bride. You might think that's not the horror scene, but it's actually kind of scary. This dapper man in his bowler hat and the boxer dog next to him. The hunter becomes the hunted. That's the tagline on that. Ross Killey, Mammon Estates. Just one of the pivotal scenes right at the beginning of the story here, as our protagonist has an encounter that pretty much leads to terror for the rest of his family. Spine-chilling in suburbia. And of course, Damascus is not here, but Damascus has 2 heroes that show up in his short stories a lot. They were at a night in Satan's Palace in The Devil You Know, and now they're spending a night at the Zelinskys, where there is a spider infestation like nothing you've ever seen before, trapped in a web of terror. There's that. Now, before I turn back to the full camera here, I just want to say that if you if you turn the page of this cover here, yes, of course you will get your story, but we didn't leave a blank page. You have some fake ads like you would find on any comic book cover, and they're all monster-related things. You know, we have worldwide sensation Sensei Nosferatu Pak, who teaches you how to kick demon butt, and of course, you know, you can get the welcome mat trap, head knives, and just things that monsters get. And the bottom of each one is, of course, your bio, all about your author bio. Before we jump into your story,
You don't got the Chuck Norris action jeans in there?
oh, that would have been fun to get that. The Nosferatu Pak thing was a play on an old Count Dante ad where the guy was going to teach you how to do the death touch as a ninja martial artist in comics. Hilarious ad. It's just dark and scary looking, and the guy was
So RJ, what made you do the artwork this time for each of the stories? I bought and I've been reading The Devil You Know, or is it The Devil You Know Better? I don't remember which one.
Devil You Know Better is the last one.
I don't remember seeing that in that book, in that anthology. You didn't do artwork on each story, right?
I didn't, unless you got the hardcover, which was, you know, crowdfunded and limited. We did have 2 pieces of art in that, and that kind of threw me at it. But I'm not really sure what did it to me this time. I was like, I thought about just, hey, you know, let's put art on each one, and then somehow that morphed with George's input into being, you know, like, hey, instead of just like, you know, art on the left, story start on the right, how about that art's like a comic book cover, and you turn it story after that, and of course that led into us having to have ads. He put,
of course,
throughout the book, even on the page where we've got, you know, the other books we've done, he put monster value stamps, and they're numbered, and there's a different unique monster. And if you at the very, very back of the book, he went ahead and said, you know what, we'll have 666 of them total throughout several books, and this is your checklist if you want to cut them all out and collect your monster value stamps, like the Marvel value stamps they used to have.
That's a marvelous concept, and extremely well executed.
It's the funniest horror book I think anybody's done.
I think it's genius. It makes me want to get into your next anthology if I'm going to have my story have an artwork like that attached to it, and I'm serious, that is going to be one of the best short story anthologies. I mean, I went and bought those 3, so I don't have to wait for you to get me ones from the publisher, from the printer. I'm happy with ordering mine.
And make sure everybody here does know that, you know, you get your copy. You're going to get it. I've got a box of 20 coming in, 1 for each. But if you want more, that you can get them at cost from the printer. You don't have to go through Amazon and you know, pay us a profit. You tell us how many you want. I'll go make the order at the printer. I'll show you the order and be like, here it is. Just send in the money, and then I send the money to them, and it comes directly to you. So Paul Burrell has already gotten 5 copies because that's what he wanted, and they arrived today. So I was kind of hoping he would show up and say, look what I got, all these books. Diana got hers off of Barnes & Noble, though.
I did. Well, Amazon was already taking so much money. But it's beautiful.
Oh, wow. Are you planning to do an ebook? I have to ask.
An ebook? Yeah, there is. The ebook is out. We published them both simultaneously, so there is an e-version of The Monsters Next Door. Surprisingly, I've not seen anybody. I've not seen any traffic showing that anybody's bought the ebook. They're all buying the trade paperback.
Because I didn't see any, and I had people reach out to me and ask if the ebook was going to be available. And on Amazon, only paperback shows up.
Okay, well, at Ingram, we did. It is available, so all it takes is now for Amazon to actually scrape their site and say, "Oh, look, here's the metadata for the ebook," and get it in. I just assumed it was there. I never look at ebooks, but I will reach out to Amazon and say, "Hey, can you get the ebook version of this, because it exists. It's there to grab, and it certainly doesn't cost Amazon anything."
Right. Yeah, I was surprised, but okay, good. Yeah, that's great. Although this book should definitely be owned in paper, I think. So beautiful.
Yeah, I prefer to have them in my hand and hold them, but
here.
And smell them. And smell them. You gotta-
There's nothing like that new book smell. Or the
Yes.
old
the old book smell. Even
Old
better.
book smells even better.
Yeah,
They could put that in a candle at Yankee Candle Company, you know, like old book.
Yes, great
I
idea.
would buy that candle.
Although the combination of old book smell and flame might trigger something in me. Like, so when I'm going to ask, and anybody wants to jump in, I guess we'll go reverse this time around. When you saw the title, what was it that drew you to compete, submit, write for this particular anthology? Other than the fact that you need a writing credit and money's nice. Joel, yes, doing reverse.
Oh boy, that's a really good question. I hadn't thought about that really.
You just sat down and wrote.
Yeah, it really was for me. I think I mean, I saw it as another opportunity, as to get my work out, I guess, in front of the public. And I mean, after I saw the cover, this is after the fact. I mean, I was
and you all saw the cover that we didn't even use.
Yeah, right. I mean, now that I think as another writer mentioned, that artwork, that's a wonderful addition to it. I mean, one of the other short story collections or anthologies I was a part of, one of the really selling points of it, I felt, was the artwork. I mean, as it obviously the stories too, but the artwork was really something that stood out to me.
Evan's wearing a Goosebumps shirt, and I've had a lot of people say that there's a big Goosebumps vibe coming off of the style of this book here. It's not a Goosebumps book, so don't think that, folks. Gene, how about you? What was there any inspiration striking in you when you saw the theme or what we were shooting for?
Oh yeah, like I said, like it was as soon as I saw the theme, I was like, I just had this history with these neighbors, and that was just like immediately. I was like, but I can't really think. I mean, it's just that's what it reminds me of. But and it's like I sat on it for a day, and I was like, it just kind of was like one of those. It never happens, but it was like, oh, there it is. That's the whole thing right there, the whole story. But it was inspired by my terrible next door neighbors that are gone now.
You didn't go to any barbecues of them, did you?
No. No.
You're positive they're not watching this, right?
I'm positive. Yeah. No.
They're gone. They're gone.
They're gone. Nobody knows where they're gone, but they're gone.
Evan,
yeah.
did you have a? Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
Go ahead.
Evan, did you have some next door monsters just sitting around waiting when this popped up?
Yeah, so I've just always had this idea of like a horror story set through the video doorbell camera. And so, this theme seemed to fit that perfectly. Like what strange goings on could be viewed through this this strange, relatively new technological advance that we now becomes, part of our everyday lives. So yeah, I just thought that the book seemed like the perfect fit for this possibly. And I'm honored that it was selected as one of the top 20. My story is very dialogue heavy because it's written as a transcript of like the videos. And so hopefully everyone enjoys it. I think it's maybe structured a little bit differently than some of the other stories. And and the artwork is amazing for my story as well as all the others. That's really great. Not something I was expecting, but like definitely something I'm going to be sharing with friends and family, saying, hey, like this is a plus to getting this. So
I was going to bring that up too, that like the one of reviews, yours was a transcript of different sessions, and I don't really show here, but we did manage to get the blocking out of the address, because guess what? When we pasted it in, the actual address that you typed was underneath, and we're like, oh, we better cover that up just in case somebody actually lives there and didn't want their address to get out like that. Diana, did you have just dead girls sitting around, or I know you didn't, because I remember you talking about.
I was down to the wire. I was your last submission, and you are such a saint for putting up with that. I was, for the past 6 months, on top of other smaller length stories, I've been working on something that is huge and kind of a big career move. And so when the call came out, I told myself, I instantly wanted to do it. I kept telling myself, don't do it, Diana. You don't have time. You don't have time. You got to focus in on this other story, this other project. It's got to get done. But inspiration strikes. And when it strikes me, I can only fight it off for so long. And so I had an idea almost instantly when you put up the call. I put it in my idea folder in my brain and in my phone. And I said, okay, I'll come back to it if I have time. And the last little bit of what was a very long submission window, I had to do it and I had to see it through. And really for me, whether an idea, because we're all crawling with ideas here, writers and creatives, if there's a line or a paragraph or a character that sticks out to me and I just can't shake it, then I have to follow through. And I had some of that with this one. Really, I mean, this whole thing might not have happened if it wasn't for one line. And in a nutshell, my story, The Dead Girl Next Door, is zombie romance, unlike you've ever seen before. Horror with a lot of heart. And I came up with, a rough version of the opening and a rough version of describing this sexy, sultry, undead girl next door. And the line about her scent and her perfume mingling with the scent of death was what really drove it home. To quote myself, Chanel No. 5 with a splash of formaldehyde. And
yes,
that was too much fun. It was too much fun not to do it. And so I did it. And I'm so overjoyed because RJ and George and everybody at Critical Blast has just blown me away with all of the incredible treasures that have been packed into this book. And it was so much fun to write. I just got my copy, so I haven't read everyone else's story yet. I just got mine yesterday, but hearing about all of yours, I'm even more excited. So congratulations, everybody. Woo!
What I liked about your setting was you said it's because she was she was a dead girl walking around, and that was okay because people knew about that. It was you said it's not a post-apocalyptic world, it's a post-apocalyptic world. We got past that. Things are settling back down now, and things are normalizing.
That's right. The post.
So Gene, how about you? Was this something that you dusted off and cleaned up, or did you just start from the beginning with the idea?
Actually, I'm like the other Gene. I think I live in a unique neighborhood. My wife and I sit on the porch a lot drinking coffee and observe the goings on. And a couple of years ago, I wrote another story, Zombies Across the Street, when these people were moving in. And they were, trying to be kind, they were so decrepit, they looked like zombies. And it inspired that. And this one had been sitting on the porch one night and just looking up at the trees and the brush. And I said, it looks like a pair of eyes up there. And I came downstairs and bam, 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 bam. And it almost was one of those, and you guys know about this, sometimes it comes out in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
Other times you get one page written and then, 6 months later you get another page written.
I liken it to the fact that, sometimes it's Athena fully formed from the brow.
Yes.
Sometimes it's Galatea. You got to chip it out hard over time.
And I wanted to comment on the artwork. Being an old dude, I am fondly reminiscent of, in my ill-spent youth, Tales from the Crypt, the comic books.
Yes.
And the artwork inside reminds me so much of that. And I was so very fond of that kind of thing. So, I am so impressed. Also, RJ, you blew me away with how fast you got this thing out.
Really? Because I felt like it was taking forever.
I've had stuff accepted, a year ago, and you think, okay, they've forgotten about it, and then 13 months later, the story comes out. Like, what? So I was blown away at the speed of that and the quality from what I can see so far of what you guys have done.
We're actually ahead of schedule. This thing's was not due to be out till September. Wow. If you look at the reading copy again, it was like, hey, we'll publish sometime in September, because I just wanted to give us as much time as possible to do a good job. But I had great team. Not only did I have George helping me with all of that artwork, Damascus Minsmeyer took a lot of bullets, because it's like he was the assistant editor on this. Every time a story came in, I'm like, Damascus, here you go, and he would come back the next day. So, okay, read this one, doesn't even meet the theme. Read this one, not sure this was English. This one's good. Give this one a look, and I'd move it over to the check this one out pile, and then I would go through all of those and say, okay, these are the ones that really meet the theme. And that's when we had 60. After my read, we had 60 left over, and I'm like, okay, now I've really got to do some slicing and dicing and painful surgery. A lot of good stories, but Mia, tell us how you came up with the idea for Midnight Deli. And
I actually, in full honesty, wrote it for another anthology that semi-recently posted a call for universal monsters, and I normally try to avoid any sort of traditional trope or any sort of traditional monster, so I don't usually write vampires or zombies or anything like that. And I thought, well, why not? I'll challenge myself to do it. And to make it a real challenge, I decided to get as many monsters as possible into one story. So that would be my thing. And the story got rejected, and I said, oh, shucks. And then I think like a month later, I saw an ad for this, and I'm like, oh, this is cute. And this fits. And then I was so delighted that it got accepted. And like Gene was saying, you guys did move very quickly. I was very impressed. It was fast, it was efficient, and now seeing the book, I understand why I was rejected in the first place, because I absolutely was meant to be in this book. I'm a huge comic book fan. I've been reading comic books for years. I love the art, and I just I love being part of it. I mean, did somebody draw little monsters for bios?
George did all of the art.
I mean, that's great. Like, it's there, right? I think I saw that. There's like a little monster with a bio. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah, every one of your like this one here, this bio, there's little monster sitting next to everybody's personal bio. So
I mean, that's great. Like, I mean, that's how I want to be introduced in life. Like, this is this little monster, and
this one is yours.
That I mean, like, honestly, you could see the likeness. It's not that far off. I think my ears are a little more in, but yeah, I mean, I was delighted, and I cannot wait for my author copy. I'm like so excited.
We're going to get everybody their copies as soon as I get them. And
yes.
it doesn't matter if you're overseas. The other business that we run is a shipping business. So overseas is something that we are experts at now.
I am not, but people hear my accent and assume that all the time. I've done podcasts and people always say, are you an international author? And I'm like, I'm in New Jersey.
That is a foreign country.
It should be. It's my first year living in Jersey after decades in Philly, which is a big city. So this is all very strange, and there are no delis here either. So my story is a relic from my years in Philly, because there are no delis here, and if there were, they wouldn't be open at midnight, because God knows what happens there. But yeah, thank you so much for selecting my story. I'm very, very happy and proud that it is the anthology.
And of course, all of your Universal monsters, they're not directly in your face named that. You have to figure out who everybody is.
That's the best part. Yeah. When I had my betas read it, they were like, "Is that what I think it is?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah, they had fun with it. There was some Googling. I love to make people Google. It's like, it's almost as good as making them cry or scream. So, yeah.
Now, Marty, I know that you wrote this specifically for the book because you're, okay, so I know Troy, I know Marty. We've worked together for years. Everything went through Damascus, and it went through him blind. So it was like, I didn't say, hey, this is a buddy of mine, I want to. So no, everything went through him first. So everybody got the fair shake. But Marty, he was particularly impressed with your storytelling ability. And I know that this is what your second published works after your Sherlock the Gnome. Oh well, and the
Time Warp
King.
Yeah, so no, I have the Time Warp King, which is YA, young adult. Enjoyed it immensely. I don't know if I'll do a sequel. And then I have a whole bunch of Sherlock the Gnome stories. And I will say real quick, you said, how did you get to write this? I'm still blaming Troy, but I started off with when I wrote the Time Warp King, it was probably about now 15 years ago, and it took 10 years for me to get it good enough where I thought it was worthy of actually seeing the light of day. And then Sherlock the Gnome, for whatever reason, they wrote themselves, but it counts as a book, but it's an anthology. There's 6 stories in it. So I was writing short stories, and they just wrote themselves, and they were easy to write. They felt comfortable. And so I guess I am a short story writer, even though I was thinking, no, I haven't done short stories in forever. These are actually all short stories. And then when I heard about this one, Mia, I got to check with my brother. He lives in Jersey also. I'm fascinated that you can't find a deli, but I will check with him to make sure that there aren't any. And if I find out where the delis are, I will let you know.
There might be some. There are just none here. Maybe.
Well, you're in Jersey? Jersey's pretty big, so yeah.
Yeah, surprisingly, yeah. I don't think I'm in an urban enough area, but
that could be. Yes.
Yeah. But
that
check.
Could definitely be. So I will check for you. But so when I heard about it, I had the idea, like I said, of the monster next door, and then it wrote itself. It was and it was weird because getting there was interesting, right? I knew who the monster was, but then getting the story to tell everybody else who the monster was, it wrote itself. I didn't know where it was going. I didn't know how I was going to get there. And then I got there and I was ecstatic. So I had 2 good compliments out of it that made my heart soar. One is a beta reader. He teaches creative writing and all this. And he says to me, Marty, your story was crisp. Crisp? He goes, yeah, crisp. I go, okay, thanks. And I had to go home and call Troy and say, Troy, is that good? Is it crisp good? He goes, yeah, no, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I was like, all right, good. And then the other one that made me feel really good was when I found out that Damascus liked it and said that, yeah, you got to use this one. And I'm like, wow, that's and it just feels so good to have people like what you write. Again, I believe totally that it's all about people reading what you write. I was reading somebody on Reddit that said, well, I write for myself. And then he goes on for this rant. And I'm thinking, really? I write because I have to, but I don't write for myself. I write for as many people as I can get to read. If you wrote for yourself, you write it and put it in the drawer. Why would you show it to anybody if it's only for you? I write for as many people as I can find to read it. And yes, not everyone will like what you write. I think everyone will like this book, though, The Monsters Next Door, because there's so many different types of stories in there. I was lucky enough to read Troy's already, which I'll let him talk about his own. But and then hearing about Evan's idea and Joel, I mean, just everybody's different ideas, and they were so eclectic. How you went through when you just went through the 20. I can't wait to read it. So yeah, and I'm not waiting for you to send me my author copy. My copy should be here soon enough. And
I'm waiting as fast as I can.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't wait. But thank you for the opportunity, and I'm so honored that I know I was one of 20 out of 175 that was whittled down to 60, whittled down to 40, and I still made the cut. Wow, you just make me feel really good. Thank you.
Well, I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. There will be the monsters across the street, because we'll just keep this going. We're going to be ending The Devil You Know with The Devil You Know Best as the next anthology book, largely because I kicked off The Devil You Know because I had a short story that was called that, and I thought, well, this will give me an excuse to finish writing it, and I'll include it in the anthology. And then I didn't. And then I didn't put it in The Devil You Know Better. So now I've got one last shot to finish the darn thing and get it out, because I'm like, it's a cool story. I want to tell it. But
so before you go to Troy, I got to ask you. I think inquiring minds want to know if we got published in this one. Do we somehow get onto now the list that we'll know when you announce the next opportunities to submit stories, or do we have to keep looking at your website and find it?
It's amazing how getting published with a publisher makes it easier to get published with that publisher the next time around, isn't it? I mean, it's not just Critical Blast Publishing that happens with. It happened with all of them. Once you're in and you know people, it's a lot smoother. Yeah, I'll be sure to let everybody know again. Hopefully, you're following us on Twitter at Critical Blast and Facebook at Critical Blast, because we throw the notice out there. I put the notice out for this book, and immediately I was dismayed, thinking we're not going to get anything on this. I'll tell you why. Because the previous books, we had announced the thing on something called Rayland.com, which was this huge global website where everybody went to put calls for anthologies, and it worked. I mean, the guy gave me advice on how to do our first book, Gods and Services, and how to make it a hit, and wasn't a hit, but it was a better book because of it. And I submitted the thing through email, and the next day I got an email back from him saying, hey, yeah, the website's closed. We don't do that anymore. And I'm like, oh, there's no Rayland anymore. Who does this anymore? I'm on my own. But everybody saw it. Horror Tree finally picked it up and put it on their website.
Horror Tree is the best.
Well, they're the go-to from now on. But yeah, we'll always put it on our publications page saying, this is what we're reading for now. Right now, our publications page says, here's the book, and here are the authors, and here's the link to buy it. That'll be that way for a while. Troy, I know your love of the old classic Universal monsters. Going all the way back to when you wrote The Lycanthrope for Rock, Paper, Scissors. Yeah, I remember all the stuff you've written. Read it. So your Wolfman kind of thing. Why the Bride and why the Spy Who Came In from the Cold kind of approach to it?
Well, I don't know about. I'm always intensely curious how people go about their work, and with me, what I do is my stuff is invariably character driven. I'm not good with twist stories exactly, but and plotting kind of bores me. But what I'm interested in is people and what motivates them. So I essentially flesh out the characters and then put them in a situation. And this character came to mind. It was on my rereading of Frankenstein, and I was so struck by the literary version, where she only appears briefly in the literary version, and that she's chopped to pieces and thrown in the North Sea. But I have her come and arise from that, pull herself together literally, and arise from the North Sea, primal and savage. And then over a period of 200 years of living successive identities and adapting to every situation. And this is who I started to build, and it's almost like sculpting. And I had the character in my head. I had her very fully realized, but I didn't have a place for her or a challenge. And then when you announced your anthology, it fell into place, because after a very storied existence of this near immortal being, you know, I put her, I recently, my wife passed, and I moved to Bloomington, which is a college town in Indiana. And it's a new place, and I'm getting adapted to it and everything. But it was, so I essentially, I thought of her, I thought, well, what does she want? You know, what she wants after all this very unusual existence. She wants normalcy. As I do. She wants ordinary, as I do. And I just want to read an excerpt from my story. And because when you gave me the frame around which I could frame the character and put her in a situation that I felt people would relate to. And that's just a short excerpt. Aside from the time she devoted to her church, Elena made tea upon waking, fed the cat, tended her roses and orchids, swept the porch, took out the trash, mowed her lawn, signed petitions, graded papers on her porch when the weather was nice, and knew by name the neighbors on either side and across the street. It wasn't an act. This was the life she had always wanted, ordinary and boring and beautiful. And I felt like that paragraph, essentially, that excerpt it summed up my feelings toward the character. She's striving to pass for human. She's religious in that she desperately wants a soul, which, if you read the novel, you know, the one thing notable about the being that Frankenstein created is he's a soulless creature, but she is not. And because my point is that we aspire to and we acquire a soul, you know, in my view. I'm not going to spark a religious discussion, but I'm just saying that I write stuff that I hope, even in my most horrific stories, I want to offer people hope. Because, Václav Havel, an idol of mine, the first president of the Czech Republic, he spent most of his adult life in the Gulag. And he was asked to define hope. And he said, people get hope wrong. Hope isn't the belief that all turns out well in the end, because even a child knows that's not true. He said, and this is Havel, who'd been tortured and everything else. He said, for him, hope was the belief that there is a point and purpose to our lives. And that struck with me. I was taken by it. I tried to convey that in virtually everything I've written. Not like I want to be heavy-handed with messaging, but I wanted to create a character that had a nobility of spirit, and that's what I tried to get across. And it was thanks to my late wife that I was able to get it together to do it, and for that, God bless her.
That's not the first time you've touched on that theme either, of acquiring a soulless thing, acquiring a soul.
Yeah, I've done it before.
I do the same thing.
I am kind of repetitive in that regard, I know, but there it is.
It's a great story, and it was one of the few stories that worked from the point of view of the monster, as opposed to, the point of view of someone discovering the monster. I like that change of pace there. So we're trying to give everybody a little bit of something different all the way. Ross, Mammon Estates, someplace to move or someplace to avoid?
Oh man, I don't know. Depends on what you're looking for, but you might want to move there. I don't know. First off, I want to say cheers to Troy, fellow Hoosier here. I'm from Avon, so cool. Not too far from you. But secondly, I want to say thank God for this anthology and the theme, because I've been sitting on this story for freaking years. Okay, I just want to say that. So like 5-6 years. So the story's like almost gotten into a couple other books, and I've always got that email that's like, hey, sorry we had to pass. So when I saw your theme, I think I found it on Horror Tree, I think. I was like, sub. So but yeah, it's funny when you sent out the acceptance email. I'd actually woken up at like 1:30 to feed my kid, and I was sitting in her room, and it's dark. I'm just feeding her. I'm like barely awake myself, and I'm scrolling through my email on my phone, and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, acceptance. We like your story. I was like, someone likes my story. I was like, who did I submit to? And I'd been submitting to a lot of people. And I was like, holy crap, someone likes my story. And I was like, oh, they picked it. Holy crap. So yeah, it was funny. It was a good way to start the day. So, but the way I came up with that story, there wasn't much to it. I was living in it's one of my mom's rental properties. It's an old house. We had like a coffee table or something like that had seen its last days. So I was like, we're just going to sit it out on the curb. We lived on a busy road. So I was like, we'll sit it out on the curb and either the trash will take it or someone will take it. They'll want it. And it was gone in like 5 minutes. And I was like, oh, geez, that was fast. And I was like, I just stood there and I was like, how can I make that scary? I can make that scary, right? So I started coming up with a story.
It's definitely a lesson in be careful what you tell someone.
Yeah.
Put limits on things. And to say more than that would be to tell his story, and I want y'all to read his story. Wow, we've gone through over an hour, and I feel like all of you have so much more that you could be saying about your stories, and I'd love to hear all of it, but we'd be here till tomorrow. So let me just real quickly bring up the Amazon page. Now, this is, by the way, it's available wherever books are sold. Ingram is, their catalog is accessible to your local bookstore, to your libraries. So, you can take the book into your library and say, ISBN number right here, get in your catalog, please put this in your system, and then I'll come to the library and talk about it. Same with your local bookstores. They can order from Ingram. All brick and mortar stores can. Obviously, it's on Amazon and BNN. The link below the video for the folks watching in the chat is the Amazon link. Up front, that is a Critical Blast affiliate link, so we get a nickel if somebody buys the book off of that link as opposed to buying it off directly from Amazon. But at last check, and let's not cheat. Let's just reload the page. This book is number 97 in horror anthologies. Now, 2 days ago it was number 41, and I've watched it go up and back down and up and back down. So
it was at 50 earlier.
Yes, and I was like, I'll take 50. That was screenshot worthy. That's fun to watch, but what I'm really watching for now is the reviews to come in. That's the stuff that. Here's the secret for all of you publishing your books on Amazon. Yes, the reviews are important. 50 is the number. When you hit 50 reviews on Amazon, that's when Amazon says, hey, person who bought this book that you didn't write, it's kind of like this book that you did write, and we want to recommend this to you because we think you'll like it. So to get those recommendations, you have to have 50 reviews in the system. Pimp your books, people.
In other words, we all need to be putting the word out and push for those reviews.
Yes, not just for ours, but for all your stuff.
Yeah.
Now
I'm offering free chess lessons if they do a review. So there you go.
There you go.
Oh, beautiful.
And Marty, you're the one who brought it to my attention that the initial offering on this was $20 in a copy. I know that's small press rates, but we changed that to the 25 because that makes you all eligible to take this story now and apply to the Horror Writers Association, which is like I keep pushing my glasses keep wanting to slide down my nose. I can't understand. Got Bob Hope's nose all over the place. But this is a competitive organization. There's award nominations. I believe that somebody has been talking with folks on the Stoker Award Committee who have said, hey, we like your story. So, my fingers are crossed for this person. They can speak up if they want. If they want to come in and tell us.
Yes, you can plug me.
Okay, Troy.
Talk to him.
Yes, comes a pale bride. You've had communications.
That was way cool. One of the chair of the review board. I don't know how Stoker or how they do it with the Horror Writers Association, but he sent me an email that he had seen. I had submitted this to be part of a podcast where they read it out loud, And you had given me permission to do it, and I was really grateful.
Absolutely, and you all have that same permission. It's
Yeah.
your story.
Yeah, and so the chair of the selection committee emailed me and asked me to submit. I felt really honored. That's quite the big deal. So wish me luck, guys.
Good luck.
I got a feeling I'll need it. I know that writing is a fiercely competitive business. I can only imagine what the Stoker Award would entail in terms of.
We're going to submit the anthology as a whole to see what they think of that. And as always with our fantasy anthologies, we'll be sending a copy to Ms. Ellen Datlow, she the queen of all fantasy in America, to see if we can't, get somebody listed in her best fantasy and horror of the year 2023.
Yeah, I love the art. I love what you did with the format, how you built it. I'm just flabbergasted by how you did it. There was like no warning, and now you've done. Not only did you do it in under the time you expected, but I mean, you have artwork for every story. It's like I'm like I said, I just want to submit another story because I want you to do the artwork for it again. I mean, you got to meet the new standard that you've created.
I had to stop him.
Yeah,
I had to stop George.
You've done an extraordinary job.
It was a team effort. I mean, basically, like I said, I threw out the idea on the cast party, if you want to call it that, for the Devil You Know Better, and it was just like I just pulled the idea. It was like, the monsters next door, and people were like, I like that idea. Let's do that. So it became a thing that had to be done, and now it's going to have to become.
Was it?
You were there.
I think it was Howard who. Howard was talking about how much he loved the Munsters remake, and that was part of it too. And that fun, cheeky nostalgia.
The Munsters remake was in theaters, and there's now there's Wednesday Addams, so it's like all of that stuff. We're like, I just wanted to see what would it be like if you took a real world setting and throw a monster into it, as opposed to a castle in Transylvania or the deep woods of West Virginia.
Well, I will beg RJ, if you can, and you can get permission from everyone, but I would love to get contact information for all the 20 writers so that I can encourage them, I can support them. I already signed up for Diana's newsletter because she was crying for one, so I did that already while we were on stream. So we should be able to support each other, and I can't wait to read your guys' stories. So, but yeah, if you could see if that's all right with everybody, if you could share in an email blast maybe where we can all contact each other. Or if I don't think you have a place for us to do so, so email.
No, and you'll notice I've been doing BCCs whenever I do the blast emails because I'm
yes. Right? No, I totally understand. That's what I'm saying. You might ask for permission. You have mine.
Yeah,
any author that wants to be published, I can't imagine you wouldn't want more people to know where you are and who you are. But please.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll send out a thank you email after this, and it won't be blind anymore. And you'll have everybody on.
Also, if I could interject, I just want to take 2 seconds to personally and publicly, I've already done it via the phone, but very publicly thank RJ for not just all the amazing artwork and TLC and hard work that was put into the book, but RJ gave me some feedback right before they went to print on the ending of my story, and basically put an idea out there to make it a little shorter and a little more heavy hitting. And that feedback really took it from good to great. So I am forever in your debt, because it really, my story would not be as good without that little suggestion you put out there. I don't think I would have thought of it myself.
Some people find short stories.
Editor.
Well, thank you. Some people find short stories easier to write than novels. I have found telling people how to write their short stories easier than writing short stories. So.
Yeah, but RJ, most publishers don't bother. They would just go, yeah, if it had a different ending, I'd use it and toss it to the side. So
Well,
that's great that you gave Diana that.
Diana's
that
not the
help.
only one I did that with either. So there are a couple of other people who got their stories kicked back, saying, hey, great story, but can you do? And
Yeah.
they did.
That's
So-
awesome.
RJ, there was an editor, Campbell is his last name, but he was a giant in the science fiction circles that discovered innumerable science fiction greats. I can't think of his first name right now, but the role of an editor, it shouldn't be understated. I mean, you bring, it's a very influential and literary terms powerful, and you've created it. I think you conceptualized and created a great book. And I think people will respond. And I think that, all we got to do is just promote how great it is, and we'd be telling the truth. And
Yeah, I think this one is. I liked your devil, but wow, just the whole, and like you said, you didn't put two vampires next to each other. You made sure the flow would be interesting to the reader as a whole. I'm going to reserve a little bit, like Gene said. So far it looks awesome, but I'm expecting it's going to be outstanding. I mean, I can't wait to tell people to go get it.
It couldn't have happened without all of you.
I think it's
sorry, that was
worth
John
it
W.
to stand
Campbell. John W. Campbell.
There you go. Thank you.
So it was a team effort. Wouldn't have happened without all of you contributing to this book. And of course, George, watching in the chat, appreciate you, man. You helped make this book what it is today.
Thank you, George.
George, that's awesome, George.
Mascus taking all those bullets. I had to, do some special stuff for him, which he didn't ask for. I was like, no, dude, you worked really hard, so take the accolades. Guys, we're gonna call it an end here before you make me all blush. So thank you all for taking.
My
time
phone's gonna die soon. We've drained the life of it.
You're gonna die soon if you don't get back to your husband on your anniversary. So
Oh yes, that is entirely accurate.
Wait,
you'll
you'll
be the dead girl next door to your neighbors after that. So,
There's another story there.
Oh my gosh.
Well, in fact, the way you wrote The Dead Girl Next Door, I believe you said you were wanting to make it something larger and continue. So her adventures may not be over. They might see a novel somewhere down the line. Anyway.
Oh yeah, well, especially because with that suggestion that you made initially, it had basically the same ending, but it went on for another page or so and gets kind of epilogue-y, and sets up for a part 2. So we may not have seen the last of this undead femme fatale. We'll see.
Very cool. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out to come and share your stories. Hopefully, I'll see more from you in the future with in our other anthologies. So keep watch. Folks in the chat, thank you so much for being here and participating. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.